recorded. See, that's very loud. Yes. Well, good afternoon, everybody. It is Wednesday, July 23rd, 2025. I am Lori Yoakum with Wilson Public Library, and Troy Franzen with Board of Public Works is here today so we can chat about backflow. Welcome, Troy.
Thank you.
What you got for us today?
Today it's talking about backflow prevention. I'll just start in on my presentation here.
And everybody that has
A water line to
water
your
line
house,
should
that has
have
water
gotten
service. If you get a water bill from the city of Cozad, you should have received a yellow postcard that had some backflow questions on it.
Yeah, and I think you just do that. Mine was just a slip of paper. It wasn't a postcard.
Okay.
And so it came
slip
in
of
an
paper.
envelope.
Yep, it could have been in a special envelope,
Okay.
but it'd be a yellow piece of paper with, there are several, I have a picture of one here.
And you're
what it
gonna
looked like.
explain what backflow is.
I'm gonna
and
explain
you're
what
gonna
backflow
explain
is.
why people need to fill that out and give it back to you because it is, or back to the city because it is important.
It is important. So as Lori said, I'm Troy Franzen, I'm responsible for all the water and sewer in town. But to really understand why backflow prevention is important, I need to tell you a little bit about how our water system works. So this is a map of what our system looks like. It feeds every resident in town. We have 29 miles of piping. We have 6 wells that'll pump about 7 to 1,200 gallons a minute. We have a water tower that holds 500,000 gallons, and it maintains our pressure throughout the whole system. It kind of works like, in a nutshell, it works like this. So we have a house with our water tower and a well. When you use water at your house, it comes out of the water tower, and when the water tower hits a certain level, we kick on a well and pump water back into the water tower, and then that goes back into your house. That's kind of how our water system works. But the thing you need to remember about all of this is we're all connected to the same water. So the water system, the water that you get at your house comes from the same place that the water your neighbor gets or the guy across town gets. It all comes from the same piping. So all of the water system is connected to everybody else. So just because you have your water in your house doesn't mean what you do can affect somebody else, can affect the entire city. Kind of got off track here. So yeah, so we're all connected to the same water source, and we all need to protect that water because everything we do matters. One way we do that is by cross-connection control, which is the legal way of saying backflow protection. Anybody got questions about backflow prevention or the water system in general?
I think you explained the water system. I have no idea what backflow is.
Okay, I will get into this.
All right.
So backflow is just what it sounds like. It's water flowing backwards towards the source. A cross connection is just a connection between the water supply and any hazard. It can be any contaminant, any pollution, or whatever. Backflow is one of the most important yet misunderstood of the water industry. The basics of backflow are simple enough to understand. We need to stop something outside the system from getting into the system. In order to have a backflow incident, we need 3 things that must happen at once. First, there must be a cross connection, which is the top circle. A cross connection is any actual or potential connection between drinking water lines and a source of pollution or contamination. So that's a cross connection. That's the definition. A cross connection can either be direct or indirect. A direct connection is a physical connection. So you actually hook one pipe to another pipe. An indirect connection is like, it's like a garden hose filling a swimming pool. You just put the hose in the pool. That's an indirect connection. It can be removed really easily. That's an indirect connection. Next, we have to have a hazard of some sort. The state of Nebraska classifies a hazard into 2 categories, a health hazard and a non-health hazard. A health hazard is anything that can negatively impact human health, such as pesticides from lawn applicators, or even CO2 from soft drink dispensers in restaurants and convenience stores. Those are a health hazard because if those get into the water supply, they will negatively affect human health. A non-health hazard is not directly harmful to human health, but it impacts the water quality or usability. That can be like hard water buildup on your faucets. If that stuff breaks in, it gets little chunks into the water, or little black flakes. They're called manganese. They're not harmful to you to drink, but they just make the water taste funny and look gross. So that's a non-health hazard.
Okay.
It's not dangerous to you, but it just makes the water look or taste funny. The last thing we need to have is a hydraulic condition. Hydraulic condition. And those are classified into back pressure or back siphonage. Back pressure is when we have a higher pressure on the outlet side than on the inlet side. So your house would have to have a higher pressure than our water main. And then the water would flow from your house to the water main, when normally it flows the other way. And a back siphonage is when water is sucked from one place to the other, like a siphon tube. That's back siphonage. Any questions on those?
My question for you, and I don't know if this is even right, so you're talking about drinking water, but can this also go for sewage too? Or is that just a separate thing?
Nope, it's the same thing. That would be classified as a health hazard.
Mm-hmm.
If your sewage interferes with your drinking water, that would be if there's any cross connection between those two, that is a health hazard. And it's highly
I'm just
dangerous.
thinking, they reported this at the council a couple months ago, that somebody was changing their oil and they were dumping the oil into the.
Storm sewer?
Yeah.
So
Is
that's not a drinking water violation. That isn't gonna make you sick. But what that can do is pollute the rivers or the streams and make
Go
the
back
fish.
to the well.
That is a contaminant. It falls under a different category.
Okay.
That isn't a drinking water issue. That's
But
more of
people
a
should still be
natural.
paying attention to
Very
what
much
is
so.
going down the storm
Yep.
sewer.
Very much so.
And then I was thinking of, I think you maybe did this last summer or the summer before, where you were blowing through the pipes and you advised everybody to keep their toilet bowls closed.
So that's with the sanitary sewer, and that's just to clean out our sanitary lines.
Is that kind of like a backflow type of thing?
Well, that would be a back pressure deal
Back
where the
pressure.
water is pushed into that way, but there again, that's sanitary sewer, not drinking water.
Right,
So,
I'm just trying to get the definitions
Yep.
correct, so that would be.
so back pressure would be, if you blow into one end of the hose, and water comes out the other end, that's pressure, but if somebody's blowing harder than you, you're getting the water, that's back pressure.
Okay. So just to reiterate, we're just really talking about the water,
Just
the
the
drinking water.
Drinking water.
Okay.
That's all this is really concerned with is the drinking water.
Okay, but does the tower, I mean, is that water that we use for
Yes.
washing our clothes and washing?
All the water in
taking a
your house
shower?
comes from the same place.
Okay, so it is,
All the water in your house, so the water that goes into your washing machine, your dishwasher, your showers, toilet tanks, it all comes out of the same place.
okay,
And that's what we're trying to protect, so
Yeah.
that there's no cross connections between the two.
okay,
So we don't get any of that nasty water into our drinking water,
Yeah.
because nobody would want to drink that. And that's what this is all supposed to prevent. But unfortunately, like everything else in life, it gets really complicated when we start adding applicators for pesticides or herbicides, or swimming pools,
Soft
or
water
hot
units.
tubs, or water softeners, hot water heat for boilers.
okay.
All of that gets really, and I'll get more in depth to that as we go along, but that's kind of what this is predicting.
What did you say the water tower's capacity was?
500,000 gallons.
Okay.
And this slide kind of shows how that works. So this is how our system normally works. We have water mains that come and they feed your house. And the easiest thing I can think of for an example would be if we have a water main break. I never know when those are gonna happen, nobody does, they just happen. And when that happens, then all of a sudden, we lose pressure in our water main. So you're accustomed to a certain amount of pressure in your house. When we have a water main break, you lose pressure in your house. If we have a cross connection that is connected to any sort of pollutant or contaminant, we can draw that into our water system because your house has more pressure than our water main for just a short amount of time. And it can push that water into our water main. We won't know that because we're not testing the water, we're not drinking the water, we're trying to fix our water main so everybody can have water again. So then we repair the water main, but the contaminant is still in our water line that we don't know about. And then we turn on the pressure again. Then that fills the entire water line full of that contaminant. So then not only do you get that contaminant in your drinking water, but so does your neighbor on both sides of you, and it can go clear across town. There have been many backflow incidents. They don't happen common because of all three things happening at once, but when they happen, they're very severe.
Is that what happened by the impact center in
And
Gothenburg?
no, that was a whole separate different deal.
Separate.
Yeah,
Oh, what a nightmare.
that was all the construction that they were
Yeah.
doing. That wasn't a backflow incident.
Okay.
But does that help explain kind of how backflow works?
Yep.
These are some examples of what we're trying to prevent. So as you can see it'd be the top right picture there, the hose in the pool. That if for whatever reason we would lose pressure in our water main, it would suck all of that water out of that pool into the water main.
Trying to compensate for that.
Right.
Trying to equal their pressure lines.
Yeah.
The same thing with the barrel. I mean, who knows how long that water's been sitting there, or even what's in that.
So the top one, you could have chlorine or.
Algicide, whatever else
Yeah.
anybody uses in a pool, or if they don't maintain it very well, it could be dirt, grime,
Yeah,
bacteria, we would have no idea.
mosquito larvae.
Yeah, and the barrel's the same way, everybody likes to recapture their rainwater nowadays. Well, if you put a garden hose in that barrel and we happen to lose pressure, we're sucking that into the water main.
Even if it's turned off or just if it's turned on?
Well, most of those faucets that I know of aren't exactly leak proof.
Okay.
There's an awful lot of them that leak a little bit. So if it's off, that's one thing, but you're gonna have to prove to me that it can be completely off all the time.
Yeah.
And then obviously the pesticide applicators or herbicide applicators. And then this last picture is one I found on the internet, but believe it or not, I've seen issues like that. The toilet stops working properly, so people makeshift ways to flush their toilet, and that's what they leave, something like that. And I don't think anybody wants to drink what's coming out of a toilet. So those are just some examples that I have seen around. This is how we prevent these. These are some of the most common backflow preventers. The state drinking water division mandates what type of backflow we can be used in any given situation. We have to take a class and a state administered test to be qualified to determine which one you need. The City of Cozad employs 3 people that are currently certified in backflow. Backflow prevention can be as simple as pulling your hose out of the pool so it's not in the water. It's called an air gap, like this. That little space between where the hose stops and your water starts, that's an air gap. Now, there's no way that water in the pool can ever get into that hose. That's a backflow prevention, just like that. Or on your faucets, most faucets look like this. They have this little knob on top of them. That's a backflow prevention device. It's called a hose bib vacuum breaker. This one is manufactured in the faucet, so it's called an integral one. But they also sell these ones that you can put on the threads. that does the same thing, just a little different location, and you can add these to any faucet whatsoever. And they sell these at every hardware store known to man. And they're really relatively not expensive. This one here is called a pressure vacuum breaker. It's mostly used on sprinkler systems. If you have an underground sprinkler system, you more than likely have one of these on it. If you don't, you should. But this gets more into the more complicated backflow devices, because this has a spring and poppet and in there. And if there's an incident, the water comes out the top here rather than goes back down into the pipe. So if this one is leaking, all the water's gonna be coming out of the top, running backwards. This one is called a reduced pressure zone backflow device. This one gets into high hazard locations. For instance, the boilers with the hot water heat, or restaurants that have pumps or recirculating lines in their water system. If there's this one that has a series of check valves in this one, and if water is ever flows backwards to this, it dumps out the bottom. That there's a hole in the bottom of that, and all the water will come out that hole on the bottom. Those are just some of the common ones around town. There's many others, and each one is individualized for that specific location or situation. Any questions over these? I know it gets really complicated, but that's why if you have questions, I encourage you to call us. We come out and look and talk to you about it. We can show you if you have one or if you need one. I do a lot of home inspections every year over this particular issue, so.
So if people really have questions about that yellow slip of paper, give you a call.
Write your phone number on that sheet of paper and hand it into the city, and I promise you, I will call you back. There's 5,000 cards, so you'll have to be patient with me, but I will get a hold of you and discuss with you what your questions are.
Okay.
And speaking of the little yellow pieces of paper, this is what they should look like. And these are the questions that are on there.
Yeah, because I had to go through with my husband, like, do we have this? Do we have this?
There's some of these that get they're confusing to some people, so I'd like to talk about a couple of questions. Boiler heat or water to air heat pump, which is the third question down on that. This refers to a hot water heating system or a water source heat pump. So a water heater, for instance, does not classify it in this particular case.
A hot water heater is not.
A water heater,
Right.
yes, no. That doesn't qualify.
This is for heating your home.
This would be for heating your home or cooling your home with a water source heat pump that actually uses a high volume of water. The next one is the swimming pool or the hot tub. This doesn't apply to the backyard pools that you fill up every year. This would Yep. So those are the two most important questions that I get. If you would have a pump hooked to your plumbing, don't last forever, especially on water systems. Any questions? We need to
sheet turned in by the 20th?
I don't really care. I'd like it this month if I could, but I also know that people are busy and they don't get them back. The reason we have to send these cards out at all is because this is a state mandated requirement that every 5 years, we have to send one of these to every water user in the city of Cozad. I need them all back because I have to count how many I send out and how many I get back. If I don't get a certain percentage back, we have to do it all over again until I get a certain percentage. So the more that I get back, the easier this is all gonna be. It's a one and done thing. And once every 5 years, you'll be getting something like this in the mail, regardless of where you live in the state of Nebraska.
Okay. Anything else?
I could talk about Backflow for a long time. I got my license in 1996, and I've been doing it ever since. So there's very few things that I haven't seen. I haven't seen it all, but I've seen an awful lot of things, and I'll be more than happy to talk to anybody about this. I just wanted to touch base with everybody about these yellow cards and kind of explain what backflow prevention was in general. Everybody gets a little confused as to what requires backflow and what doesn't.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is about backflow, but what else is going on in the water department? I see different parts of the streets around town.
So we did have to go around town and we had to mark every asset that the city has. That would be every fire hydrant, every water valve, every service valve for your house, every
I
manhole.
was gonna say the manholes in green.
Yep,
Because my
manhole or sewer.
husband- What's the city doing now?
We are putting together that's what
That's
they
right,
call
you
it.
did talk about that.
That puts every one of the assets with GPS coordinates, and we can find them all the time. So the problem we have is in the wintertime, as we all aware, a foot of snow makes it really hard to see what's in the street.
Yeah.
So it makes it very difficult for us to find a water shut off in the middle of wintertime. Wintertime is when we happen to have the most main breaks or water leaks. So that's when we need to access our house most of the time. So this map will cut down our time having to scoop snow to find a valve to shut off the water. Especially if that water is running into your house from some sort of a leak. You really want us to do that quickly,
Yeah,
not have to spend an hour out there scooping snow. This GIS map will give us within a foot or two of where that valve is. So
nice.
that's what we had to paint everything in town. Hopefully in the next month or two, we'll have that map put together and I can show you something about that.
Awesome. And then how are things going out at the wastewater treatment?
Seems to go pretty well. Obviously, like everybody else in town, we've had a real problem with the large rains that we have here lately. That's always a problem for us.
You know, now is your chance to talk to everybody who watches this about flushable wipes.
There is no such thing as a flushable wipe. I don't care what they advertise as. I don't care what it says on the package. There is no such thing as a flushable wipe. What those do is they get hung up in the sewer and cause massive, massive problems. I'm going to say 85 to 90% of all of our sewer maintenance calls are due to some sort of flushable wipe. There is no such thing as a flushable wipe.
So if you had a wish for the citizens of Cozad, it would be to stop using.
I wish they would outlaw those. That's, I'm telling you, that's false advertising. So they don't degrade, they don't break apart. They're rigid and they stay that way. With toilet paper, it degrades. You all know when you get toilet paper wet, it just disintegrates. Flushable wipes don't do that. And that's what causes all kinds of problems for us. So there is no such thing as a flushable wipe. And the other thing is, trying to think of the best way to say this, but,
Does it involve sewage?
oh yes, it's food debris, grease, large chunks of leftover food really don't need to be in the sewer. grease will stay in the sewer for its entirety. There is no good treatment to remove grease. So if you're dumping your grease from your hamburger down your drain, please stop. It's a huge, huge problem. All of the restaurants in Cozad, I have made them install a grease trap. It's a series of tanks that collect the grease and then they pump out the grease separate. Where I can't do that to all the residents, but it will clog your pipes and there is no fix to it. We can do stuff to help, but it's always gonna be a problem until you replace that pipe. So that would be my two big issues for the sewer.
An old soup can.
Yep, old soup can, make a tinfoil cup, whatever you need to do. Canning jars that are thick jars, I don't care. Capture the grease and throw it away in the trash. Do not dump it down the sewer.
That's good to know. Anything else that you have kind of an open platform, things that you wish people knew to make life better in Cozad?
Well, Melanie kind of talked on some other water issues that they've had around our area, like Gothenburg last year had to boil water for a while. Those are all issues that weren't related to backflow, they're related to bacteria. Every water system has to test their water weekly. So every week we have to test our water here in Cozad, and we have random places that we test our water and send it off to a state certified lab and record our results. So when they have problems with those, they have to have 3 consecutive tests that are show positive for some sort of bacteria. That doesn't mean the water isn't safe to drink. It means it's potentially not safe to drink. So just so everybody knows, we haven't done that in many years here in Cozad. I can't say we've never had a boil order, but we spend a lot of time making sure our water is safe. And I really can't stress enough how important it is to take care of the water we have. Because like I said, every water line is connected to every other water line. So if we have a problem on the west side of town, the east side of town is also going to have that problem. So we test our water every week, and then throughout the year, we do a whole herd of random testing, from testing the individual wells to testing the pipe material, what it's made of and how it's holding up, to testing the water out of fire hydrants.
Yeah, because you guys did a lead test last year?
Well, we're still in the process of that, but yes, we did put together a lead line inventory of every water service in Cozad. If you have questions about whether you have lead in your line or not, give me a call. I'll do my best to help you out. Or we can come take a look and see what exactly you have. But there again, that was mandated by the EPA in the state of Nebraska. So that's something that we had to do. And yeah, it's an ongoing process. That will be something that we will deal with for many years.
Yeah. Well, thank you for everything you do for keeping our water clean.
Certainly.
I mean, that's a huge, huge deal. And I'm sure nobody comes up and just says, thank you, Troy, for everything you do.
Well, I kind of have a saying that if anybody knows what we did, we didn't do it right. Because everything that we do, most people shouldn't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because your water should turn on when you want it, and it should go away when you're done with it, and you should never have to thank it. So if you know about a problem with your water, then something's wrong. So we don't do this for thank yous. We do it so we can stay behind the scenes and.
I know, but still, it is a thankless job. Because
Sometimes
by doing
it
what
is.
you're doing, everybody just assumes that you're doing it right?
That's right.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you very much. I'm trying to think, next month, our community chat is later in the month because of our book sale. So it is August 20th, and Paul Prince of Dawson County is gonna come and talk about the catch and release program that they're doing for the cats around town, as well as, I think they're trying still to work on a dog park. So with that said, have a good one, everyone.